Alright, I'd like to do a short video on how you hold the sticks in the Scottish style of drumming. My little studio with my lamp blazing over there and the wind going on above me and probably the washer in the background. It's nothing fancy, I just want to show you a couple things. Alright, so item number one, how do you hold the right stick? Well, we'll get to that one probably a little later. I want to focus on the left stick in this video, just the left stick. If you want to look at that right hand there, what I typically tell people, there's your fulcrum, forefinger and thumb. Hold your elbow up at a 90-degree angle if you can see the 90-degree angle. And of course, bring it into the palm of your hand, straight into the palm of your hand. Come down, that's the grip roughly. Now you may turn your thumb up slightly when you're doing singles in the French grip style. You may leave it over this way. There's all kinds of different ways to handle the singles. We'll get to that one later. What I'd like to look at now is the counterintuitive stick. This is the one nobody thought of picking up a drumstick like this. It's not natural to pick up a drumstick. The right one, no problem. You pick it up, it's fairly natural. So how do you make a counterintuitive grip natural? What I always like to say is, and this is borrowed from Reed Maxwell, it's what he showed me, it's how he teaches his students. He says if your hands are in the twiddling thumb phase, or in the twiddling thumb position, separate them. That's how the left hand looks. It's sitting on its side, it's not sitting flat on the table, it's on its side in its natural position. The thumb is going to be the primary mover of the stick. Where the stick will rest, the floor, is that index finger right there. Sorry, that's a ring finger. This is an index finger. It's a ring finger. And this is the person in between. We don't want to mention him right now. It's naughty. At any rate, ring finger, index finger. So, when I put the stick in there, I've got the fulcrum, rest in its natural position. Thumb is going down the stick. There's the floor of the stick, if you can see that. See the floor of the stick. Nothing is perverted, nothing is contorted. Where do these fingers go? Just bunny ears, sitting to the side to control lateral movement of the stick. So when it's all said and done and you look straight down it, that's what it looks like. Put it up even closer to the camera, that's what it looks like. You can see that I'm not really holding anything, I'm simply letting it rest. Thumb, ring finger. Lateral movement controlled by these are not really doing anything except sitting close to the stick, barely touching it. So when we're actually using the left hand stick, arm is relaxed at the side. Do not bend the wrist. Do not bring the elbow in. Do not bring the elbow out. Do not contort. Do not get weird. Okay, I always thought that if we could invent some kind of device, a Nerf ball device to strap on people right here, just to keep this elbow out, because the tendency is to want to grab the stick if you're not used to this. You don't need to grab it. Let it sit. It sits. Watch. There's the fulcrum, resting right on the thumb, if you can see that. There's the fulcrum. Okay, let the thumb do the work. The first stroke should have the thumb on the stick, down the stick, extension of the thumb. Here we go, hit the middle of the pad. See how the thumb is on the stick? Thumb is on the stick, bring it up, push it down. Thumb is on the stick, bring it up, push it down. Okay, so when you try to do singles, also known as taps in snare drumming, hit the middle of the pad, keep a nice angle. Don't have to be stuck out here, but certainly not stuck in here. Keeping the hand in its natural thumb twiddling position. That's a term you want to coin. Coin the term, thumb twiddler. Okay? Notice the fulcrum's roughly the same. When you hit it, notice where the floor of the stick is. I'm stopping on the floor of the stick. If you can see that. Thumb is down the stick. I'm not crossing the stick like this. I'm not gripping the stick. I'm not trying to hurt the stick. I'm letting the sticks barely sit there. When my arm is up in this position for larger strokes, that is barely in there. I'm not holding on. I'm not clamping. I'm just letting it sit there. It's friction that's holding that in that crotch of my hand right there. Okay, so it's light. So when we get into the S motion of the stroke, which is the back of the stick up first, come around, let it bounce, as if you were bouncing the stick like I showed you. See that? Thumb stays on there. See that? I'm not tucking my elbow in. I'm not getting scrunchy. I just bring it up, down the middle of the pad. And as John Fisher says, everything we do in drumming is right there. From the top arc of the stick, to the first attack of the note, to the release of the note. Let it go as many times as you possibly can. That's everything we do in drumming, according to John Fisher. And I understand a little bit of what he says. Not completely, because hey, John is John. He knows the stuff I don't know. He goes to places, shall we say, I've never been. So let's look at this again. Back of the stick here, coming around. I like that shadow in the background. I think that's kind of helpful. Okay, comes back around. Nothing hard. Let the stick do the work. Middle of the pad. Okay, notice it's not always this way. And it's not just wrist. Okay, and it's not all thumb. There's a little bit of this flexibility I want to get ingrained in your head if you're learning how to do this very smooth, hopefully, very easy left hand stroke. Now that's the entire stroke. For smaller strokes, I'm still staying loose, and notice how I'm kind of catching the stick at the bottom on the floor of the stick. So it's open, close, open, close, and nothing's rigid. The floor of the stick should be very low. The ceiling of the stick should be clear up here. Ceiling, floor, ceiling, floor. Okay, if that makes sense. Okay, now as this speeds up, I'm not thinking of tension, I'm not thinking of the wrist, I'm thinking of hitting the middle of the pad, keeping that same position. Okay, nice, easy stroke. You should practice this. You've got to get comfortable with this. Again, very counterintuitive stroke. At some point, it's going to move out of the wrist and the elbow and the shoulder to the smaller muscle groups called the thumb and the fingers. Okay, so as it gets faster, it's going to move into there. And you should practice this exercise every speed, every dynamic range. Okay, still a little bit of thumb. Thumb kind of closes, collapses it onto the ring finger. Hit, catch, hit, catch, hit, catch, hit, catch, hit, catch, hit, catch. Now look at this. Once you get to a certain speed, and again, the video is going to make it look all kind of weird and maybe faster than it really is. All I'm doing with my thumb is just moving my thumb, not keeping anything rigid. It's a little bit of wrist. And that just becomes what? Thumb. Again, the video is going to be a little bit behind the audio on this, I think. See how that works? Now, let me show you one other thing. Fulcrum is here. Remember, natural position. I put the stick in the hand. Thumb is down the stick. Watch this. I can just dribble the stick on my hand. Now watch when my thumb takes over. That's what I'm doing. If I dribble faster. Sorry. Dribble it, 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 dribble it. Okay? So it's to use that thumb is to use, I think, the Scottish technique. I know a lot of jazz musicians turn their hands over this way, as I used to do when I played kit snare. You can do that as well, but in Scottish drumming, you've got the drum right in front of you. If you start doing this, you get the rim in the way. So we like to say natural position, twiddling your thumbs, using that thumb. And see that flexibility? There is the stroke. There is the stroke. Nothing's rigid. I'm not holding onto the stick. I'm not trying to death grip anything. Okay? So again, a little faster. Staying loose. Notice how the thumb is taking over. Just dribbling the stick on the fulcrum. Something real simple, right? And then you get the bigger strokes. Okay, now that's the counterintuitive left hand. Keep it natural. Keep it controlled. And just keep this nice shape to your hand as you hold the stick. Okay? Nothing very strange about that, and certainly nothing contorted. I know if you've never done traditional grip, you want to grab that sucker, don't grab it. Let it rest. Let it teeter-totter on that fulcrum. Etc., etc. So left hand grip, hopefully that's a little more explanatory and you can figure that one out. Watch the video. Got some comments, great. Want to make a shorter version of just watching the hand, I'll do that too. It's Darren Marshall, also known as Drumming Darren, I believe, on my YouTube account, for lack of a better alliterative name. Left hand technique, work on it. If you're in the Scottish style, lighter is probably better than heavier. Slower and controlled at this point if you're new to the left hand grip, better than heavy and fast. Okay?